my
All
encoder
right.
up.
Have a great show.
Thank you very much. We are live. Everybody wave hello. There you
Hi.
go. Good. Okay. Ready for the feed. Dance with me. Come on, dance.
Welcome to Read My Lips Radio, a lively
Kerry's
hour of
just doing the finger
unscripted
dance. Kerry,
conversations
behave
with
yourself.
savvy creatives. Producer and host, aka Radio Red, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's aka Radio Red.
Oh, Radio Red in the house. What can I tell you? Some days it's easy and some days it's not. Welcome to Read My Lips. This is the Monday after Thanksgiving, and I have to tell you, I had to do battle with a 5.34-pound frozen turkey on Thursday because it decided that Alexa wasn't right, that it was going to take 1 hour to defrost in the fridge for every 5 pounds. It needed about 3 to 5 hours, so we ended up with a warm water bath in the sink. It was fine, Kerry. Don't worry, no germs there. And then when I roasted it, the turkey decided that, well, the instructions were don't trust the pop-up temperature thermometer in the turkey, use your own. So we used a digital probe. Well, you're going to love this. The bottom of the turkey breast said 159, which is not a good number because it's not cooked. The middle said 163, which is still raw, and the top said 180. So 3 of us had to don potholders and a large fork and flip the bird, if you'll pardon the expression. And then we had to cook it for another 20 minutes until it was all sort of even, and it was fantastic. But I've never had to wrestle a turkey on Thanksgiving. So welcome, everybody. I hope you all had a gratitude stuffed holiday. That's what I like to say. I give thanks every Monday for my wonderful guests. And for those of you around the world who follow my show, who listen to me on Voice America Empowerment, who watch on LinkedIn or YouTube or Meta, Facebook, whatever they're calling themselves. So I'm filled with gratitude right now. So this is, my goodness gracious, this is the 2nd of December. How did we get here? A few minutes ago, it was January. I have no idea. But before I introduce my wonderful guests, 2 of whom are returning repeat guests and 1 is new, I want you all to put your fingers up in the shape of the letter L. Do that for me, please. Letter L. And on the count of 3, join me in saying, just like I'm saying it, hello, L, L, L. Just like that. 1, 2, 3. Hello, L, L, L. Michael, my engineer, put them down for a 4th place tie with number 1 with the best, most in sync LLL without a rehearsal. Michael is going to write noted in the chat for me. So there, noted. Thank you, Michael. I count on him every Monday.
It wasn't a gang thing or something, was it? Just, I just want to
No.
make sure I didn't just join a gang.
LLL is lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener. Kerry, you might remember me talking about her last time you were here. Laura lives in Whitestone, and I've been trying to get her to move to a place that starts with letter L. And I accidentally moved to Loudon, Tennessee 2 years ago. Oh my. And I realized it started with L. So I said to Laura, instead of moving to London or Louisville or Lexington, come here, but she hasn't come yet. So she listens. And on Monday nights, 6:01 p.m. Eastern, I'm warning you, Mark and Jocelyn and Kerry, I'm going to get a report on what she heard you say, a little bit about what you shared on the show, and she's going to tell me how much she loved all of you. So
now, do we get extra points for working the L in? Like if we say lovely and luscious and lanky?
Well, it's just lovely, lanky Laura Legs because she's tall and she's got great legs, and we met at a dance class. There you go. And I know she's with her boyfriend, Charlie, right now. So I'm sure she's appreciating the shout out. So today is this, Kerry, behave yourself. Today is December 2nd. It's the 337th day of 2024 in the Gregorian calendar. Used to be Julian. Julian had a problem with the calendar. Mark, you'll appreciate this because Julian just said, well, between October 3rd and October 15th, there were no days on the calendar. So if you had a birthday then, if you were ever born then, you wouldn't get to celebrate. So Gregorian came along and he said, no, we have to fix this. We have to align the calendar with 1 leap day every 4th year, and we'll be aligned with the moon and all the good people can have birthdays. So that's why we thank Gregorian for the calendar. 29 days are left. This is the 49th Monday, and nobody gives a you-know-what about that except me. So 29 days left. Here is my annual warning. Mark, if you're planning to make some kind of homemade Kahlua, it's time to go find a sink or a bottle somewhere and make it because you just barely have enough days to let those flavors blend in. Kerry, if you have a relative who has a still, used to make bootleg whiskey, I want you to go reopen that still, and I want you to have some kind of wonderful something that's very strong for a New Year's Eve.
Is
And
this an
Joss,
Irish thing?
no. And Jocelyn, I have
Yeah.
a feeling you're going to be buying something wonderful off the shelf on an online wine store, maybe, or
Sure.
doesn't have to be alcoholic. The shelves are going to be empty in the next 3 days, so you better hurry up and buy it. So there you go.
Good
There
advice.
you've all been warned. Okay, so I have a lovely poem I want to read to welcome each of you and all of you. And when I call your name, I want you to wave at anybody, anything in particular, because the audience is waiting to see who you are. They can see your names, but they want to see you wave. So, welcome to Read My Lips, where AKA Radio Red holds sway. See, I'm swaying, Kerry. That was what I did during the dance. Bringing cool conversations with creatives right your way. In her Scarlett Mike's live streaming glow, she opens the door for bold ideas that grow into so much more. Today's medium of creativity episode, Mark, that's a accolade to you, starts now with three creatives sharing their stories of how. Mark Charter's journey through life, a creative endeavor, from Disney delights to storms he handled very clever. A medium, a mystic with visions all bright, connecting with spirits sharing their light. Pastry chef by trade, finding antiques by keen eye, Mark's creativity soars up, up into the sky. Mark, did you like that?
Yes, that was beautiful.
I'm glad.
The poetry is quite good. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. And now let's go to Jocelyn King. Jocelyn faced fears and came out the best. A cybersecurity leader now, passing life's test. From storytelling prowess to guiding with care, she empowers bravery for people to find dreams if they dare. With courage ignited, she boldly takes flight. Jocelyn's creative spirit is a dazzling delight.
Ooh, that was lovely.
Oh, she liked that.
I
Good.
love that. I love it even more than Laura.
Oh my goodness. And Kerry, are you ready? Kerry, are you with me?
If it doesn't have epinephrine in it, I'm gonna complain.
Okay,
So-
here we go. From EMT beginnings to emergency care, Dr. Kerry Forrestal's journey shows he's willing to dare. A playwright, a novelist with science and his heart, blending medicine and creativity in a seamless art. Cancer care wisdom, sci-fi's great expanse. Dr. Kerry's creativity fuels life's dance. I hope you like that, Kerry.
Outstanding.
Good,
Top
I'm
marks.
glad. So here we go. Let me finish up. Join me, aka Radio Red, as we gather to see the miracles in the medium of creativity. For life's true magic is when we dare to be bold, and creativity's stories hold lessons to be told. So gather round, lend us your eye and your ear as we dive into creativity with passions clear. AKA Radio Red's roundtable is set today. We hope to inspire you to live large, love life, and play. So what'd you all think?
Spectacular.
I cry when I
Bravo.
read that. Now, here's the full transparency. I
Yeah.
do at least two shows a week, and I have 3 guests on this and 4 on the other, and sometimes I do 2 more, so I have 5, 6. So 3 and 5. So I have about 10 guests a week, and the bios run about 300 words. So I have a virtual assistant, and her name is Sylvia. You know her as ChatGPT. So I go to Sylvia and I say, "Would you please help me write a 6-line poem based on these bios?" And I send her the bios all together. So Jocelyn's and Kerry's and Mark's in one huge text display. And then I hit go, and then she comes back in. How many minutes did it take her to do the part about the 3 of you? And then I edit it. I spend a lot of time editing it and cleaning it up and changing it. So how many minutes did it take Sylvia to come back with the core of those poems? Just put up your finger if you
Wasn't
think
even
it
a minute.
wasn't
5
even a
seconds.
minute. Okay, 5 seconds. Kerry says 5 seconds. Mark, do you have a guess?
32 seconds.
32 seconds. Jocelyn, where do you weigh in on this?
Well, I use my Sylvia a little bit too. So I'm going to guess by the time it came out, maybe like 5. I'm going to say it's like
5 seconds. You with Kerry?
Yeah, 5
Okay.
seconds just
Well, I
to,
don't want
you know.
to.
We're
I don't want
betting
to
against
shock
the
all of.
medium here, so we gotta, he's got a little inside track there.
I don't want to shock all of you, but it's under 2 seconds.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
And then I go through and I compare the bio that you sent me to what she wrote, and I make sure she hit the key points. I change some of the rhymes. Sometimes I go back to her and I say, "You didn't get this. Would you do it again?" Or I just usually do it myself, and then I put it all together. So I'm very, very glad. That's full transparency, so you all know where it came from. So I'm going to ask each of you to fill in the gaps. I think we did a pretty good job of describing who you are and where you come from, but we want to know more. So remember, this is the 3-minute soundbite roundtable. No lectures, no speeches, no going on and on and on. If you see me doing this, it means I've got you on camera and I'm not because I changed the camera a lot. So, Mark Charters, I know you've been so excited and looking forward to being on the show today. And I met you at the Publicity Summit. I met Jocelyn again. She's been on before, and I met Kerry again. So, Mark is our newcomer. Mark, I'm putting you on speaker view. Would you please do me the honor, do all of us the honor of filling in some of the gaps? 3 minutes, your whole life story from the creativity lens. Mark, welcome. Go ahead.
Here I go. It's a pleasure to be on the show. I really enjoy it.
Thank
Crazy
you.
beginning for me, but it's the way it goes in my life. You
Yep.
know, I always say our worst tragedies are our best gifts. You know, I was born a psychic. I come from a family of doctors, lawyers, bankers, very mind-centered people. And here I came in as a psychic. I was injured in a really bad illness of having encephalitis. So my brain kind of fried. It took me quite a while to recover from that. Instead of academics, which I failed at, I went into cooking. I love working with my hands. I always tried to be creative and adapt is my motive. And I went to culinary school, Johnson and Wales. I ended up becoming a pretty good pastry chef. Worked with the top pastry chefs at Vail. Actually ran the Vail Ski Resort Bakery. Worked for Disney World. Made a life of that for quite a while, and then burnout. And at that moment, I said I wanted to go back to school, try my brain out again. So I went and got my bachelor's degree in human services and wanted to work with people with problems. At that moment, I went through a real crisis in my life. I was an addict, alcoholic, became homeless, junkie, overdosing, living on the streets of Miami, New York, New Haven, and to the point of where I was about to be shot. And at that moment, I had a psychic vision and my whole future was laid out before me. I took that, and with that, I went into healing work. I became a massage therapist. In that process, I had lost a daughter, lost a father. My wife almost died. I almost died. Went through really a crisis. But I took all that, became a therapist, and worked for 30 years as a healer. LA, New York, with celebrities, business people, many different types. Along with that, my psychic ability started to grow. And when COVID hit, my whole massage therapy practice ended in one day. So I had to get creative. With that creative, I jumped into my psychic work. And within 4 months, I wrote a book, became a psychic in 10 countries by Zoom, and my business took off. From there, I went in and just wrote the book, published it. Now I have a book going. On the side, I love doing shopping and cooking. So I took my psychic ability, looking for antiques. I collect antique glass, artware, Asian, European, and have a blast with my wife with that. The cooking part, I've created a show called The Mealtime Mystic. I'm about to create a YouTube from that. I take food, psychic, and families and bring it all together. And my daughter, who is on the other side, comes through me every morning, and I bake and I share that food with all my clients throughout the world. I like to do a lot of different things. I've been through a lot, but each of those challenges has made me who I am today. And I love being creative with all the things in my life and move forward. I hope that has made sense for you.
It has. It's quite a remarkable bio, Mark, and I'm glad you're here. I think
It's a pleasure.
I think that
really
just
is.
sums it up. And I don't mean just on my show. I mean, I'm glad you're here. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
You're
I
welcome.
praise that every day.
You're welcome. Yes, it is creative getting through the tough times. And we all have, I think, our own levels of tough times. Mine is not as tough as yours, and Jocelyn might have had hers, and Kerry might have had his. But we all have to be creative about figuring out what we want to do, who we are, where we want to go, how we want to survive, but who we want to be. I'm still a work in progress. I think I know you are, Mark. We'll get to Kerry. I'm not sure Kerry's going to go for that one. Anyway, Jocelyn is next. Jocelyn King, welcome back. It's been a while. I'm so happy I saw you again at the summit, and you said, "Let me come back on the show. Let me come back on the show." Not quite like that. And I said, and then Kerry piled on. He said, let me come back on the show. Let me come back." And Kerry's here too. So Jocelyn, I'm putting you on camera view. Would you please fill us in? What have you been up to? And welcome back.
Thank you so much. Well, and what I've been up to, you want to talk a little bit about creativity. And as I was thinking of it, in my 5+ decades here on the incredible planet Earth, each of them has had a creative theme. I was born in Southern California into a family that loved show business and Hollywood. My father was in charge of opening day of the 500 kids at Disneyland, so the very first Disneyland, and that meant that anytime we wanted to go, he just called and they had tickets waiting for us. So we moved a lot when I was a kid. My parents were kind of like, show business gypsies, but we were always somewhere near Disneyland. And so I consider Main Street, USA, my home away, away from home. And no matter where I lived, that was always where I went. And the creativity of the Imagineers and of Disney and all of that captivated me from a young age. And I am a creative. I've had I've done the different brain tests and personality tests and all, and creativity is always very high. And
Hmm.
I've worked in Silicon Valley for over 2 decades with inventors and also a lot of engineers who are very systems level serial logic thinking people. And I bring the creativity into the mix. And I ran marketing and communications for over 2 decades to large companies. And I worked at some incredible startups that were really making a difference in the world. And I worked at large companies making a difference in the world, like Intel, where I stood up a group there in the marketing side. And I have been a musician. I was a professional musician while working and going to school and being a mom because I couldn't not. I had to have my creative expression. And I was in an all-female rock band in Southern California, and we toured all around and were incredibly popular and all really talented musicians. And because we were all women back in the day, the first set, everybody would just sit there and watch us to see, are we really playing those instruments? So good. And I'd go to the restroom to powder my nose after the first set, and even the women in there would say, I heard it was an all-girl band. I didn't think you guys would be any good, but you're really good. So, so I got a chance to show off creativity in all forms. And I later became a jazz singer and did jazz festivals and had a quartet and recorded an album and got to meet some top jazz professionals. And I've kind of been a serial creative entrepreneur in a sense, because then I got into startups and that was my creative outlet. And then, as I've spoken about with you before, Red, at the peak of my life when I was at Intel and everything was going great, and I'd bought my home, it was a beautiful place up in a beautiful retreat away from the everyday Silicon Valley, and I got targeted by cyber criminals, and it was not a single event. It was an ongoing thing that lasted for a couple of years. And I found out my home had been broken into. I found out we had had people listening to our conversations, and it was devastating. And as a creative, I'm also a sensitive person. And so when you're highly sensitive and something negative is happening to you, you feel like a raw nerve. And I remember the day I woke up and thought I just couldn't see a way out. I really didn't think I was going to recover. But I did, and I was able to recover, I think ultimately through creativity and hope and faith and but knowing that I didn't have to know right then how I was going to recover, but of course there's a way to recover. And my philosophy now that I even help when I'm talking help other people understand is if you're facing a single, decision and you're feeling stuck, or you feel like you're stuck between two bad decisions, I immediately tell myself there's at least nine others, if not 99 others. And that my job is to just relax and get out of my own way to allow the other ones to appear. And when I did that at this horrible downturn in my life, things started changing. I started finding help, started turning things around. And then I was able to go from cybercrime victim to a founder of a top 10 cybersecurity startup to then being named a top 10 woman in cybersecurity. And that was so pivotal in my life because now I'm able to help people learn how to protect themselves online. And using my creativity, I'm able to do it in plain, simple English. I have
Mhm.
bought 50 books on online safety, and they're all written as though people want to learn cybersecurity certification, which they don't. They just want to learn how to protect themselves. And I've got a visual model that makes it really easy for people to suddenly comprehend how to protect themselves. And all of that is from this incredible source of creativity that each and every one of us has inside of ourselves.
What a story, Jocelyn. I don't remember knowing all of that. And I don't know when you were on, if you had had the cybersecurity attack, but very, very important. People don't realize the The horse is already out of the barn. Closing the gate is
Mhm.
really too late in the digital world today. And we can talk about that another
Sure.
time. But thank you. I just want to tell you, I don't know if you know that I'm considered an early woman in tech. Kerry, did you know that? I was a programmer analyst back in the day when we were coding, and I was key punching my cards,
Oh my God.
2,000 cards, and I was coding COBOL on a Xerox Sigma 6 CP5 mainframe
Oh,
computer.
wow.
And when I was training, I had to step up on a step stool. I was wearing high heels and short skirts. I sewed all my own suits, business, and I had to step up and load a disk pack. And today we have what, a little thumb drive? What is about this big? You put all your data on. Well, we had these disk packs that look like a cake carrier with a handle. Like, when you're going on a trip and you bring a cake in the carrier to somebody. Well, that's what a disk pack with the data looked like. You had to climb up and open a drawer and pop it in, and then the operator had to start. Anyway, all kinds of memories. So I have great respect for women in tech at any level. STEM, today they call it STEM, but anybody, yeah, we can, and I'm a drummer too. We can play
Can
music.
I just add?
Yeah.
STEM with arts included is STEAM, so it's
Yes.
science,
Yes.
technology, and
Yes.
engineering,
Yes,
art.
absolutely. It's all in there. Artists too. Kerry Forrestal. Aren't you the cousin or nephew of Eileen, who was on recently, who's been
A
on a couple
cousin,
of
a
times?
distant cousin.
Distant cousin. Kerry Forrestal, welcome back. I'm putting you up on computer screen view. Everybody wants to see you. How have you been? And why don't you fill us in what you've been up to? Go ahead.
So, all right. So we're doing the life story thing
Yes.
to get to where we are. How does an ER guy write a cancer book? So, my stories are certainly not as dramatic as the other participants here. Those are some stories. Really, quite a credit to you both. Born East End of Long Island, got interested in medicine when my mother, who was a pioneer in the 1970s, started going out on calls for EMS, and it was an American Legion ambulance. And they were old war goats, old World War II guys, who didn't like women being out on those, but they had no choice. One of the medics threatened to sue them. And of course, okay, we were welcome. Come on in, and they proved themselves very, very quickly, my mother being one of them. And it looked very cool, her running out the door, middle of the night. So at 16, they allowed me to join. They were like, at 16, I was killing Nazis. I was like, I just want to go out on the ambulance. I don't want to kill any Nazis, but okay, that's fine. This then went to school, was active through that period of time in EMS, did 17 years in EMS. Along the way, did a whale and seal stranding team, did a stint on Wall Street doing computers, joined the Air Force with an air rescue squad, started out in pararescue special forces, didn't have the eyesight for it, they tell me. So wound up actually being a commander's advisor on drug and alcohol and hunting down racists in the military. Some interesting stories there. So ultimately, after 17 years, started to get a bit of age on, said, want the big box of crayons, went to medical school, was one of the oldest people in the class, 33, only EMS for me, only emergency medicine for me. Pediatric ICU, oncology, these are all very, very interesting, but it had to be medicine, emergency medicine for me. And then, along the way, got very interested in how many people we see in the emergency department who have cancer, we diagnose with cancer. And it was never enough for me to say, hey, you got a bad problem, you should go do something about that. So I wrote Crushing Cancer, the patient's complete guide to managing a cancer diagnosis, to help people who I diagnose, manage everything about it, the finances, the legal, the workplace protections, everything that goes into living a life. I don't talk about how to treat cancer. I talk how to keep your life going while you're treating cancer. And creativity, then, you draw from all those things. In the ER, when I have a guy that I got to convince, I'm going to run electricity through your heart, or whatever else that we have to do to you or your family member, you got to reach people very, very quickly in a very compressed and very stressed environment. So I think that's where the creativity part of it comes in more for me in my medical practice, is I have to figure out where that guy is and how I can get from where I am with all my cultural biases and what I look like to where they are with whatever they have brought to the table. So that's mine.
Thank you. I want to know about the whale and seal stranding team. What did you do? You never tell me more about that, and I keep asking. Come on, now you have to tell me.
The group was called a chemo, and it was one of those things where, anybody listening, if you want to do whale and seal stranding, for example, pick up a phone and get started. Make a phone call. That's all I did. I just was sitting there. I was in kind of an idle position in my life, and I wanted to do something to break out of the inertia. So I went, whale and seal stranding. I've heard about these guys. Picked up the phone. I said, yeah, come on down. We gotta go someplace. So went down there, and they said, yeah, there's a seal out on Fire Island. Let's go. and I loaded it into the truck, and I was on the team. And, went from there to, the whales, we don't save so much. Usually you have to do autopsies to figure out what killed them. And usually it's sponge plastic in the stomach. Seals, we would rehabilitate. Dolphins, we would sometimes be able to rehabilitate. And it was just great. It was just chasing, seals around Fire Island who were sick and maybe had canine distemper or whatever else. And, the way you have to give medicines to these things is wild. You have to have somebody distracted. It gets all pissed and it's looking at the guy, and then you fall on it from behind, and you have to pin its paws down, or it's the flippers, because those have claws at the end of them. Most people don't realize that they look like fluffy little puppies. They're not. They have claws, and they will jack you up just as much as a tiger. So, you have to fall on the thing 4 points all at once. You have to fall on the flippers, and you have to get the back of it, and then try to still keep the neck controlled so that the whole thing is frozen, and you drop on the thing to do it. So it was one of the more interesting. I have to do that occasionally with the drunks in the ER, but not as much.
Thank you that was
Might have been one of
interesting,
those drunks.
an interesting lesson. One more question. Sci-fi, was it a novel you wrote? What did you write? A novel or play?
The gentleman who was going to be on here with me, the play was called Club Hell. It's about marketers in the afterlife. So two marketers die on the Jersey Turnpike rushing to a meeting, wind up in hell. This is no surprise. And then they try to con their way back out of hell by convincing the devil he needs a new marketing image. So it's like, no, too much red, tone it down. White sports jacket, red power tie. So that was Club Hell. Then there was the Miss Clipper Chicane, which I also wrote with John Frasha. And that was about basically, it's sci-fi, post-apocalyptic kind of stuff, but with a bit of a twist and some, you can imagine the humor. If just talking to me for a few minutes there. And I'm working on a musical for the play, a musical that's going to be my ER play. Everybody says you should write about the ER, and it's going to have to be a musical. So
ER the musical.
I'll tell you the love story if you. I don't want to take up all the time.
Later on. Tell us later in the show. I want to move on, but thank you. See, Kerry has this knack for burying all these little things, Mark and Jocelyn, in his bio in one sentence. He says, I did this, and he keeps adding commas and semicolons. He never tells me what exactly he did or what it means. So this is the second time on the show, and I'm dragging it out of him. So thank you, Kerry. I appreciate that. There's a lot more to your creativity than your wonderful work with Crushing Cancer in the ER. So thank you. I dragged it out of you. I feel better now. So let's go to the opening quotes. I asked each of you to send a quote from a movie or TV fictional character or a song lyric. And let's take about 2 minutes. I'll read the quote with a little bit of background, and then I want you to tell us what it has to do with your creativity. So Mark Charters is up first. Mark has picked a line from the song Me and Bobby McGee, covered by Janis Joplin, not originally sung by her. It was written by Chris Kerry likes that. Written by Chris Christopherson, originally performed by Roger Miller. I did not know that. And Christopherson wrote it based on a suggestion from Fred Foster, who was a record company executive at Monument Records. And Bobby was named for the studio secretary, Barbara Bobby McKee with a K. And Christopherson misheard her name, and he named the song McGee with a G instead. And Bobby in the song was never defined as male or female, so both genders have covered the song. Janis Joplin's was the most famous one. Two drifters, the narrator and Bobby McGee, hitch a ride from a truck driver, sing as they drive through the South going westward, and in California they separate and the narrator is sad, and blah, blah, blah. This was, Gordon Lightfoot did one of these, Jerry Lee Lewis did a version of this, and it was the #2 posthumously released #1 single in the U.S. chart history after Otis Redding Sitting on the Dock of the Bay when Janis Joplin's was released. So, Mark, I hope you enjoyed that backstory. I'm sure you knew all of it.
I'm a psychic. I didn't even know that.
There you go. It's called Wikipedia, my dear. Wikipedia.
Yeah, I know.
There you go. Okay, Mark, I'm putting you on speaker view again. Why don't you take 2 minutes and tell us what this means to you, please?
Okay. The freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. The
Yes.
reason I like that song and that quote is I hitchhiked 36,000 miles in my day, all over. But really what it comes down to, I've been in many times where I've lost everything in my life, everything to the point of nothing. And it was then that I found freedom for some reason, and the creativity started. And it's always stayed with me, even in the worst of my situations. For some reason, when I find that I have nothing left to depend on, is where I find hope and freedom. And for some reason, that quote, I might not have gotten it perfectly matched up to what my beliefs are, but it really sank deep. And the hitchhiking, the music, the singing, I've experienced the truckers and all that. So it has such a similar background. My book, Become the Light Again, has a lot of stories about truckers and how they helped me, and also about the times where I was at my wit's end. I was ready to end it all. So it really, my freedom was more in when I lost everything and I had nothing else to lose. It was my opportunity to take a risk and move forward. And so it had a lot of meaning and beauty to me. And I try to share that with my clients that come in who have lost children, who have lost siblings, have lost parents, gone through really difficult situations. And so I try to live by that. And all of us at any moment can lose anything really fast. Nothing is ours. And when we lose it, we have an opportunity to go two ways: to give up or have the freedom of choice and move forward and make something again. And that's the basis of my creativity. And I hope that makes sense for you.
It does. That was lovely. And often on this show, we talk about definitions of creativity. And a couple of years ago, I had a woman who said it means courage, courageous creativity. And then somebody said it's curiosity, curious creativity. What is that about? What should the next sentence be? What would that character say? What should that painting look like? Where should this song go? What should that pastry be filled with, Mark? All of that, right? And Kerry, how can I define it, and how can I simplify what people need to do to live their life with cancer? So we're all looking for that. But you just introduced another word I haven't heard in a while, the word of risk, Mark.
Yes.
Creativity is sometimes, for many of us, take the risk.
I
See the
remember
risk, right?
Yeah, when I was about to be shot on the street, I had to take a risk at that moment and change something, not knowing the outcome. And I did. And 30 years later, 40 years later,
Here you
here
are.
I am on your show.
Here you are. Well, I'm glad you took
So-
the right chance. I want to move on to Jocelyn's
Risk.
quote. Jocelyn, thank you, Mark. I love getting new words for creativity. Jocelyn, I'm going to your quote. This is stated by Renata Klein, a wealthy and volatile woman played by the wonderful Laura Dern. The TV show is an HBO series, black comedy drama called Big Little Lies. I hear it might be coming back. It stars Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon, Shailene Woodley, Laura Dern, Zoe Kravitz. I saw the season one or however many they had. 5 women in Monterey, California, who become embroiled in a murder investigation. Involves their husbands, who are some too good, some not so good. Meryl Streep joined, and then Ian Armitage, who was he played Sheldon in the Young Sheldon, and Catherine Newton joined. Season 1 won 8 primetime Emmys, including all kinds of awards. Here's the quote. It's a long one. Listen up. You never let a bully win. Do you hear me? You have to speak up. You have to be a big girl and use your voice in this world. That's why they call me a bulldog, because I had to learn how to fight back with a bully. Oh my, that's a powerful and long, one of the longest quotes I've ever gotten on the show. Jocelyn, 2 minutes. Tell us, what does this have to do with you? Go.
Right. Well, and I wasn't sure if you're going to use the whole thing or just the first part about
Yeah, the whole thing.
never let a bully win.
Good.
But for me, I wouldn't be here today if I had just rolled over and let the bullies win. I remember being at that, I mean, I lost over $500,000. I lost opportunities in my career because I was so distracted by the things that were happening, my home being broken into, working with the FBI and the sheriff, and not having anything come of it because they're so overwhelmed by cybercrime. And I just was watching these criminals and bullies get away with things. And there was a turning point for me about, I'm either going to take a stand and stand up for myself and say no, or I'm going to roll over and, I'm going to give in to 2 bottles of Ambien, and that'll be it. And I didn't, and I, that rallying, that moment when I decided to rally, I thought, I can't let people who are taking advantage of me and other people this way get away with it and win. The thought of that was just so repulsive to me. And the thought that I needed to stand up and learn what to do and how to recover and how to prevent it so that I could help my kids and niece and and everybody who I cared about. And the turning point for me was deciding that I wasn't going to let bullies win. And it was through my recovery that I learned that, first of all, 15% of the population has some kind of pathology. So it's, I before that, I kind of had an open door policy, like you either trust everybody or nobody almost. I think we have a natural reaction that way. People get so fearful if something happens that they don't trust anyone, or, and they're overly trusting, or you just don't trust anybody. And there was a really nuance in there for me to be able to spot bullies, to spot people who have pathological tendencies, and say no and put them in their place and not let them pass. And then keep my heart and mind and doors open for all the people that I wanted to be loving and kind to. And so that thing about stopping bullies is really important. I'm an executive coach and a life coach, and I work with a lot of senior people at Fortune 100 companies and people who have won, Grammy Awards and Oscars and things like this. And when you are imprinted with fear and letting bullies get away with things, it doesn't matter what you've accomplished. So I've really learned how important it is for us to realize that we don't have to be bullied and to take a stand. And that's why that quote, while it's not necessarily the whole thing is it's too long to be quotable, but it's really important for me that everybody know that if you've been bullied in any way, if you're being bullied now, you don't have to let it continue and you can stop it now. And if you have been bullied, you don't have to let your fear of what happened in the past limit you in the rest of your wonderful life that you have yet to create.
Thank you. That was lovely. I think yes, we agree with that. Thank you. Brave and bold. You got to step out of that shadow, of that anger and that hurt and maybe that shame and
And
maybe that
fear, a
fear
lot of
and
fear.
guilt and come back into the light. Thank you very much. And Kerry's quote is a beautiful follow-up to what Kerry, up to what Jocelyn and Mark were just talking about. Kerry's quote is from Professor John Keating, played by the wonderful late great Robin Williams. Of course, the movie is Dead Poets Society. They call it a teen drama film, but Kerry, I think it's so much more than a teen drama. There was just so many lessons in that. It's set in 1959 at a fictional elite all-male conservative Vermont boarding school, the Welton Academy. I won't go into much other than he was an unorthodox teacher, an English teacher, and he was a former alumnus of Welton Academy and a Rhodes Scholar. And the quote is, he said, "Carpe diem," Latin for "seize the day, boys, make your lives extraordinary." Kerry, what is it? We're all smiling. What does this have to do with your creativity? Kerry, talk to me.
Well, by rights, I shouldn't be here. By rights, I shouldn't be a doctor. Um, where I came from, as far as academically and the town I came from, I'm only the second doctor to graduate. The first was at the turn of the century, a lady named Emma Bellows, who was one of the first female doctors. So she was a groundbreaker in her own right. But the people did not, I was not the guy that you would go, hey, yeah, he's going to go write a book and go do this, that, and the other thing. And, at some point, and to some extent, what you were saying about bullying is, there's a type of bullying that's just the imposition of expectations, where basically people look at you, yeah. So when I started applying at 33 to medical school, there's a fairly fierce headwind. I mean, you're supposed to be married by that point and have kids and a career. And the person I was with at the time was like, hey, you got to make a choice. And I did. So I'm no longer with that person. So there's a fairly ferocious headwind in saying something to say, look, I can have one or two lives, and you can either capitulate to expectations. I told my biology teacher, the lady who got me interested in the sciences, that I met her. I was 30. I was just starting the process. I said, yeah, I'm going to go to medical school. I could have said I was going to fly to the moon with a pair of paper mache wings for the look she gave me. Her name was Alice Squash. She's like John Houseman brought into female form in biology teacher.
Oh dear.
And she looked at me like, okay, So, carpe diem has been a theme to say, don't capitulate to what other people think your life should be, and you choose, where you go. Mark, you made a choice on the street. You made a choice about cyberbullying. You made a choice to have this show read, and everybody knows who we're talking about. You didn't have to call names, So it's that idea that I do not in any way accept what others expect my life is going to be, and I have the wife I have because we created something in medical school called career cultural competence to learn about other people's cultures in medical school. It had never been done before. And we did it, but there was no mechanism to cross-train across the 11 medical schools of Stony Brook, the 11 different health sciences. And we created it. I created that just to meet the other people and to train on things like domestic violence. And is hearing a handicap or is it a culture? You know, and while we're having our initial meetings, in walks this amazing human being who is an occupational therapist who was looking for people to help rehab occupational therapy equipment to send out bombed out clinics in Bosnia for children. And that woman became my wife.
Oh my.
So carpe diem.
There's still so much you haven't told me, Kerry. How many more times
Statute
am
of
I going to
limitations is
invite
coming
you
up, and the
back?
warden is very forgiving. So there'll be more.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. What I'd like to do, I'm looking at the clock. I know we started late, but I want to pick one creativity statement from each of you because you're each kind enough to send me 4. And let's see if we can keep it to about 2 minutes because we're 12 minutes to go till the end of the show. I want to make sure we get everybody. I'll read the statement. You don't have to find it in your notes. Just take 2 minutes. And if you see me doing this, I'm not being rude. I just want to keep moving because I have other things I want to share at the end of the show. So Mark Charters, statement number 2. This is, I want to say adorable, but I won't say that because you wouldn't like that word. This is amazing. When Mark says, when I go to a friend's house and I'm thrown in the kitchen to feed 10 people, there's no planning. It's a mishmash of food, cooking utensils, and pots. I come alive, as if all the past cooks in my family, male or female, come through me and I start flowing. In 20 minutes, I have a buffet that astonishes the crowd. Mark, you want to come to my house and bring the 20 people? I'd love to host you. So, Mark, 2 minutes. Go ahead. Tell us what this means. It's adorable. Go ahead.
That is something I love doing. And the example I use is I had a friend that lost her son. And I went to visit after the funeral. I came into her house. No one planned dinner, and there were 30 people there. And all of a sudden, I just started grabbing everything out of freezers, fridge, things like that. And I just went to it. And I'm smiling, laughing. And all of a sudden, I could feel my grandmother there. I could feel her son there. I could feel everyone. And I just whip out Italian food. I whip out some French food, whatever was in and around me. And within an hour, I'd have the whole table set with different things. And it happens quite a lot to me, especially around holidays. I don't go to my sister's anymore. I hope she's not hearing this because I get thrown into her deal and I end up cooking when I want to be the guest. But what it does is it's in the moment. And I think the creativity is all about being in the moment in every aspect of our life. And I think healing, when I work with one-on-one with clients, it's the moment that is where the blessing is in. And everything can come to us through that moment. And so when I'm cooking, just like when I'm writing, when I'm psychic channeling, when I'm looking for antiques, but when I'm cooking, it's like all the channels open up and it just flows. And whatever there, my wife laughs because she just watches me and gets to enjoy the end product of all that, you know. And so it's quite a lot. Even at home, when the fridge is empty, you'll have a nice meal on the table. But it's a creative flow that I love really doing. And it's an act of love where all of my family members come through and give.
Thank you,
My
Mark.
dad was a physician, and he cooked every Sunday with me. He came from, as a cardiologist, he'd come and we'd make the spaghetti, meatballs, brajol. And then he would show up in that too. He's passed many years ago. So it was really beautiful like that. So
I've never heard it described quite that way, the flow and people from the past. Thank you. That was lovely. I'm going to move on. Looking at the clock here. Jocelyn, this is interesting. You say, I create alone and in solitude, but I prefer to create with others and let energy build on each other in a group or something as simple as my writing meeting. Listen to this. Jocelyn invites other authors to join her for 2 hours. And I'm quoting her, we state our creative intentions and then all go on mute, but stay on the Zoom camera and write for 2 hours with each other's silent presence as support. Never heard of this. I might want to join your group if you're still doing it. Jocelyn, 2 minutes. Seriously, we're running the clock here. Go ahead, Jocelyn. What does this mean?
Well, I call it Right Now, WRITE, Right Now group, and I host it once a week. And I have several authors, some come and go, and we have some who are planning to publish. But I love it because I'm doing my writing, and when I'm done with my book, I'm working on my next one. And so what we do by coming on camera, just like with this wonderful call, what I do is facilitate that we're thinking of who we're writing for, because there's always the who you're writing it for, and so I do a little brief guided meditation of them having a bad day, something's going on, and they're walking past the bookstore and they see your book in the window and they stop and they go, ooh, and they go in and they open it and it's speaking to them. And so I'll do some kind of visualization like that. Then I say, okay, and then everybody sets their intention of what they're working on, whether they're reading it or writing a chapter or redoing an outline or whatever it is. And then we stay on camera, but we all go on mute. And I set my timer for, 97 minutes. And we get all this writing. And then we come back in and we debrief and we leave. And everybody says that they get more done in those 97 minutes than they do blocking 8 hours of solo writing on their own, because the energy we share with each other, the inspiration, and centering on who we're here to serve and what we're doing is incredibly powerful. And I host it because then I'm always there and it gives me my 2 hours a week. And I love
Lovely.
it. I wouldn't change it.
Lovely. Wow. We'll talk about that offline. I'm very
And I
interested in that.
recommend, you don't have to be a writer to do this kind of thing.
Yep.
Whatever it is you want to do, you could host something. And when you're the host, you get the benefit. I actually think I get more out of it than everybody else by hosting it.
I'll talk to you. I have some ideas. Thank you. Kerry, this is a quick one. Kerry says he wrote a song for his wedding and tricked his wife into playing a flute solo on it. Kerry, I give you 1 minute because we got to go. Go ahead, Kerry. Go.
Sure. So the song was called Sing Joyful. So I went and talked to a friend of mine who's a musician. I laid out some lyrics for him, hummed it to him, and we just workshopped it over a weekend. The thing was, the weekend was like 2 weekends before the wedding when my wife said, you need to be here. And I said, I got to do something for John. And God bless her, she said, if you tell me that you need to be somewhere else, then I know you need to be somewhere else. Never gave me an ounce of flack about it. And what we had done a couple of months before, I had it in my head and John transposed it for her. We had her record it like it was for his parents' anniversary. We took that track. I went up the weekend. I got attacked by his cat, and the tech problems were amazing. It's a story into itself. Put it all together and just popped it on her at the wedding. So when she heard her flute solo, because that's what we led with, it was like all of a sudden she falls back in the chair. She goes, she starts looking at me like, oh, I gotta watch this guy. So
And then she knew who she was really marrying, right, Kerry?
yeah, so snuck that one by her. But yeah, it was called Sing Joyful, and we're actually celebrating our 25th in 2026.
Congratulations. Coming up. Yeah, 12. We got to get through 2025 yet, but we will. So thank you all for the statements. I appreciate it. I have some things I got about 4 minutes left. Okay. So today, December 2nd in music history. I think you'll all get a kick out of this. Anybody remember You Send Me Sam Cooke? Sam Cooke, 1957, hit #1 on the charts for the first of 3 weeks. On this date in 76, the Bee Gees sold out a show at Madison Square Garden. Why? As a benefit for the New York City PAL, Police Athletic League. On this date in 78, Barbra Streisand and Neil Diamond's You Don't Bring Me Flowers hit #1 for 2 weeks on the Hot 100. Here's the interesting one. In 61, Elvis Presley filled out an automobile insurance form. He listed, you ready for this? A 1950 Chevy 1-ton truck, a pink 1955 Cadillac sedan, a 1958 Harley, and a 1960 Rolls Royce on his insurance form. I don't know who tracks this
That's
stuff.
where pink Cadillac comes from.
It might have been. I was a Mary Kay lady, so I don't know. Here's some birthdays. 1918, Milton DeLugg was born. Anybody remember the accordionist? He was on, I think, the Gary Moore show or something years ago. Milton DeLugg, he was a composer. I just remember him as this interesting looking guy playing an accordion on TV when I was in the womb, of course. He composed Orange Colored Sky for Nat King Cole. If you don't know the song, find it. It's an incredible song. And he composed music for the game shows, the Newlywed Game, the Dating Game, the Gong Show, and What's My Line? I had no idea. Today is Britney Spears' birthday. She's 42, blessed to her. Nelly Furtado, the Portuguese-Canadian singer-songwriter with 10 top singles. My goodness, she's 45. Lucy Liu, the wonderful actress from Charlie's Angels. and more. She's 55 today. And here's what I want to tell you. You don't know these people, but we're going to wish them happy birthday. Luke did that. One word, okay? His name is Luke West, really. 21 today. Why are we celebrating his birthday, Mark? Because he has 118 million video views on TikTok.
Wow.
And he has 20 million subscribers on YouTube. And on YouTube, he has 7.8 billion views. He eats spicy food on camera. They banned him in 2022 and he came back. I know, Kerry. He chugs Coke with Mentos candy and drinks sour beverages. I don't even want to know there. Anyway, 100, that's what people are looking for. On YouTube, Sunday Man, SSUNDE Man, 35 years old. He only has 24 million subscribers. He plays Fortnite, Minecraft, and other things. He served in the U.S. Air Force and blah, blah, blah. And he was uploading videos. And then a very interesting looking man named Tony Mahfood, who is 29, Be Still My Heart. Jocelyn, this is a looker. 3.1 million followers and 1 million likes on Facebook. He's an artist and a model and a photographer, and he quotes gratitude. Today is Bartender Appreciation Day. It's National Fritters Day. Fritters all over the world. Earliest started in 1665, first eaten by the ancient Romans. They were in Greece. Their tempura is considered a fritter. Italian fritto misto, a seafood fritter. The flour fritter, drying edible flowers and deep frying them. Anyway, corn fritters in the South are big. Today is National Mutt Day. It's World Computer Literacy Day. It's Cookie Cutter Week. There you go, Mark. If you want to give up pastries and go for cookies, it's National Cat Lovers Month and National Tie Month. I don't want you all to go away. We're right on time because we have to take pictures. So in 2014, I had a list, Jocelyn, of the top 10 tips for women I closed my shows with. And the number one, now remember, this was 10 years before the movie Barbie. The number one top tip for women was aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. I'll let that one sit with you. Kerry, you can burst out laughing now. Here are my final words. Life is short. Break the rules. Right, Mark? Break the rules. Forgive quickly. Well, maybe. I don't always. Kiss slowly. Yes, just yes. Love truly with all your heart. Laugh uncontrollably. Join me, everybody, with a laugh uncontrollably. Oh, pretty good. Not bad. Don't hurt yourself. And never, ever, ever, ever regret anything that made you smile. Final words. Work like you don't need the money. Nobody else really cares, probably. Dance like no one's watching. When I taught disco in high heels on the top of a Formica table in a high school cafeteria in Eugene, Oregon, I made them get me a wooden stage, and they said no, but I didn't fall, and everybody looked at my legs. I never fell. Sing like nobody's listening. Love like you've never been heard. We all have, right? Get over it. Let your heart regenerate, regrow, regroup. Love again. Money talks. Chocolate sings. La! And last but not least, I stole this line from another host years ago. Thank you for turning me on. Radio Red signing off. Guests don't go away. Michael, my engineer, thank you. Are we out, Michael?
We are out. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day.